It starts with certain council members. You see that sentence? It's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 lines there. Certain council members are hindered.
Yes.
So your attorney wrote to county council and said certain council members have hindered Mr. Preston's ability to perform his duties as county administrator for at least 7 years now. Among the complaints about hindering your ability to perform your job were the various things you identified in your declaratory judgment action against Ms. Wilson, Mr. Waldrop, and in your affidavit, which is marked as Exhibit number 2, correct?
Yes.
And what your lawyer says in September 2008 is that Mr. Preston has overcome the efforts of those who would stymie him in the performance of his duties. Would you agree with that?
Not entirely.
You don't think you had overcome those efforts?
Not entirely.
Did they cause you to quit your job?
No.
And you agree you never quit your job
I did not.
with Anderson County, correct?
I did not.
And the claim that's being made on your behalf in September 25th, 2008 is a claim for anticipatory breach of your contract.
My attorney is stating that, yes.
Employment agreement with Anderson County that existed in 2008.
I haven't looked at it in probably 2 years.
Were you familiar with it at some point in time?
Yes.
I mean, you operated under that agreement for several years, right? Let me just show you that. Let me show you what's marked as exhibit number 4. Should take time. Once you're ready, just tell us if you can identify what that document is.
Right. The county itself.
And it's dated July 22nd, 1998, is that right?
Yes.
Is this the employment agreement that you were operating under during your employment with Anderson County from 22 July 1998 through November 18, 2008?
Yes.
Is this the employment agreement that you were claiming was anticipatorily reached in 2008?
Yes.
Do you agree with me that this employment agreement makes clear that you always served at the pleasure of county council?
Under certain conditions, the conditions of the contract, yes.
Was it your understanding that county council, under the employment agreement that's marked as exhibit number 4, could terminate you at any time? Yes or no?
No.
You didn't think they could fire you anytime they want?
They could fire me, but there would be responsibilities that they would have to attend to here.
Anything about that language that makes you think county council cannot terminate you at any time, subject only to the provisions of Section 3, which talked about severance pay?
Repeat your question.
You have my question here?
I think there are other contract in addition to this contract.
And I'm just talking about the contract.
Okay. Your question is what again? Yeah.
So you agree that Section 2A of the contract allowed county council to terminate you at any time, subject only to the provisions concerning severance that are outlined in Section 3, correct?
I'm going to have to say that my limited knowledge of the development of some types of contracts, I guess, I don't know for sure I can answer that question.
Just give me your best understanding.
I believe so, but I don't know for sure.
And would you agree with me, Mr. Preston, you as county administrator for Anderson County and probably for Cherokee County signed dozens, perhaps hundreds of contracts for employment with various people that work for the counties, correct?
Vendor contracts, but not employment contracts.
Most employees are at will, correct?
Most employees are.
So they don't have a severance agreement, do they?
Elected officials would.
And you as county administrator did have a severance provision in your contract, right?
Yeah.
But you signed, what, hundreds, would you say, of vendor contracts?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you review them yourself?
Often.
Do you feel like in your experience as a county administrator over the 20 plus years you've done it, that you have a pretty good familiarity with how contracts operate without need for legal opinions as to the specific terms?
Yes.
Where in the contract that we're looking at, exhibit number 4, do you see any provision that provides for Anderson County to purchase you any retirement service credit under any circumstances?
I don't know of any provision in the contract that would state that.
Would you agree with me then that it's not in there?
Yes.
Do you have an understanding as to whether or not that payment somehow allows you to take credit for additional years of work service with the South Carolina Retirement System?
At that time, it was unclear because they were purchasing time left on the contract, and that time left on the contract could in fact, that could be added to the time that I had up until the time at the end of that contract.
And maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but would you agree with me that you...
My answer is I don't know.
Right. But I'm trying to get at what I think you just said. After your severance agreement was executed in November 2008, didn't you address some concern with South Carolina Retirement System concerning how much your average annual pay should be calculated?
Yes.
And that depended upon, your view was they should include the severance amount as part of your last 3 years of service pay, correct?
Well, I was informed that it should be by the personnel department. They told me that it would be.
And in the end, the South Carolina Retirement System disagreed, correct?
That's correct.
And they had a ruling to that effect at some point, right?
That's correct.
And in the end, you didn't challenge the ruling further.
I didn't really have any other place to go other than the Budget and Control Board.
Under the employment agreement that's marked as exhibit number 4, do you agree that there is a provision that allows the county to suspend you as administrator at any time subject to certain procedural requirements?
Where do you see that?
I'm sorry, page 7, section number 13.
Yeah.
And one of the concerns I think you articulated already was that you had a concern that the incoming county council might try to suspend you after January 1, 2009 without giving you some of the procedural benefits that you were entitled to under this section. Is that fair?
Yes.
And specifically, you thought they might try to suspend you after January 1st, 2009 without a hearing.
There was a motion to that effect made.
But it
Without
wasn't
a hearing.
But it wasn't passed. The motion.
It was not.
So you were making a prediction. Would you agree with me? You were making a prediction as to what the future council might do once they took office?
Checked the phone. I wasn't making a prediction. I was responding to, reacting to what had happened up to the point, up to that time, which the meetings and the statements made to me from others and having conversations with them.
After your lawyer wrote the letter that we've already seen, Mark, it's September 25th, 2008 letter that Mr. Hoskins wrote. What happened? Are you aware of what happened with respect to how the county addressed your letter? What did they do with it?
They formed, I think, some kind of committee. I don't know what they did. When they did that, they hired an attorney and had a committee appointed.
Did you know
to deal
that?
with it.
Was the attorney Tom Bright?
Yeah,
And was the committee the personnel committee?
that's what they called it.
In 2008, did the Anderson County Council have a personnel committee?
No,
When did it first have a personnel committee, to your knowledge?
when this happened.
So when this happened, this being the letter that your lawyer sent to Anderson County in 2008, your understanding is a personnel committee was then appointed or created?
Yes, I believe the chairman did that. I think,
Chairman was Michael Thompson.
yes, it was.
And who was appointed to the committee, do you know?
It was Larry Grip.
Did you have any input in who should serve on that committee?
No.
As a typical matter, if the council creates a committee, do you as county administrator have any input in who should serve on the committee?
I wish I did, but I don't.
Did you have any input in the hiring of the lawyer, Tom Wright?
No.
Did you have any involvement in any discussions about what lawyer should be hired?
No.
Once the lawyer was hired, did you have any involvement in any discussions in which the lawyer, Tom Wright, gave advice to either the county council as a whole or the personnel committee?
No.
Did you attend any personnel committee meetings?
No.
Would it be, in your view, inappropriate for you to attend personnel committee meetings addressing your claims in for breach?
No.
Why not?
If they had asked me to attend, I would have assumed it was my turn.
Did you have discussions with any county council members in 2008 about your severance agreement or proposed severance agreement?
I had a brief conversation with Michael Thompson about it. For the most part, including Thompson, they treated me like the plague through that period of time.
At some point after the Hoskins letter came in September 2008, Mr. Thompson asked you to meet with him about that letter. Is that right?
He came to the office.
What happened? What do you remember about that conversation?
He wanted understanding as to what that was about.
What did you tell him?
I don't recall exactly what I told him, other than I told him that I felt like my attorney, after meeting with Hoskins, felt like it might be an anticipatory breach, and that based on everything that I had learned up to that point, that's what I felt, and I was putting them on notice.
Did you have any conversations with any county council members other than Michael Thompson concerning your severance agreement or your anticipatory breach claim in any way,
No.
other than the one you just described?
No.
Would you think it would be, or in your view, would it be inappropriate for you to have substantive discussions with the county council members about your anticipatory breach claim and or your severance agreement?
Objection. Only if I had legal representation with me.
So your concern would be that you be represented by counsel in such a meeting, is that
I
right?
would like to have counsel with me.
No. I'll ask you another question.
Yeah.
Did you have any involvement in any meetings with any decision to hire Michael Cunningham to replace you as town administrator?
No, I do not.
Did you know that a decision was going to be made on November 18, 2008 to hire Michael Cunningham as your replacement?
No, I do not.
Not until the meeting itself?
Correct.
That is Did you have any?
There were, of course, people in the county were talking. He was a deputy administrator, so it only made sense that they do that. But other than that,
Did you have any involvement in arranging for the drafting of an employment agreement to hire Michael Cunningham as county administrator?
I can't recall. I think, I don't know if a council member asked me for a copy of my contract again at that time. I don't remember. No, not that I can recall.
You say you can't recall whether one asked you for a copy of your employment agreement?
Yes, I just don't know. I don't remember that. That doesn't hit me where I can remember that at all.
Did you have any involvement in searching within Anderson County's budget for funds that could be used to pay a severance payment to you under your severance agreement?
No, I did not.
Did you know that it was going on?
Yes, I did.
How did you know?
My staff person that worked, my finance person, contacted me and said that Mr. Greer was meeting with them.
And who was the staff person you're talking about?
Gina Humphreys.
And what is Ms. Humphrey's position with the county, or what was it at the time?
Should have been the assistant administrator for finance and several different departments.
Do you recall what Ms. Humphrey said about Mr. Greer's request of her?
No, just she was meeting with him to discuss it.
And when you say discuss it, what was it?
The budget. Mr. Greer met with her regularly to discuss budget issues. And it was always through me that he arranged those meetings. This one, he did. I didn't know about it until he already contacted her and she wanted to tell me about it.
So Mr. Greer basically did what you complained Ms. Wilson and Mr. Waldrop had done in the past, which is
Yes.
go to a county employee without your knowledge.
I don't think he felt like he needed to come to me to discuss it.
And did you come away from your conversation with Ms. Humphreys understanding that Mr. Greer was talking to the finance folks within the county to look for funding that could support a severance payment to you?
I don't know exactly what he said to her as far as what he was looking for.
No, I'm asking, what was your understanding? I mean, did you come away from your conversation with Ms. Humphreys with an understanding that he was looking for funding that could be used to support a severance payment to you?
Possible.
I mean, did you have any different understanding that he was looking for something else?
Maybe not just funding to pay me, but maybe to pay attorneys too. I don't know.
And did you do anything else with respect to Ms. Humphreys or anyone else working in the finance department concerning the request Mr. Greer had made of Ms. Humphreys?
I don't think so. No, sir.
Did you ever point to any items in the budget that you felt could be used to support a severance payment in your favor?
No, I did not.
Did anyone ever come to you with a suggested list of budget items that could be moved over or transferred for use in paying severance payment on your behalf?
No, no.
Did you ever see a list of items that ultimately was transferred into an account to be used to pay your severance payment?
At the council meeting, I did.
And after November 18, 2008?
I believe so. I think he handed it out, if I don't recall.
And you don't recall ever seeing a list prior to that council meeting?
No, I don't.
Were you in attendance at the November 18, 2008 council meeting?
Yes.
Were you in attendance the whole time?
I don't recall. I don't remember. I don't think I left. No.
And that's the meeting at which your severance payment was voted on and approved?
Yes.
Did you know going into the November 18, 2008 county council meeting that the agenda was going to be amended to consider your severance agreement?
I knew that Bob Walter had placed an item on the agenda that was supposed to, they were going to discuss where he brought up my employment status.
Did you know in advance of the November 18, 2008 county council meeting that Mr. Wilson was going to amend the agenda to offer for consideration a severance agreement in your behalf?
No.
Given at the November 18, 2008 county council meeting for an employment agreement for Mr. Cunningham to become county administrator?
No.
Had you had any conversations with anyone prior to the November 18, 2008 meeting that led you to believe that you had support of sufficient members of county council to approve a severance agreement on your behalf?
I knew that I had two that were certainly not going to vote for any kind of severance agreement. I didn't know if they had a majority or not.
Did you make any efforts to count votes prior to the November 18, 2008 county council meeting, votes, meaning votes that would be in your favor on a severance agreement?
Did I think about it?
Right. For starters.
I don't know. I didn't know how the vote would fall.
Exhibit number 5, would you agree, is Mr. Hoskins' letter to Tom Bright dated October 23rd, 2008?
Yes.
And exhibit number 6 is Mr. Hoskins' letter to Tom Gray dated November 17, 2008.
The letters, I don't know about the attachments.
And what about exhibit number 7? You agree that the letter portion is a letter written by your attorney on November 18, 2008?
Yes, the letter.
Would you agree with me that if you look at least October 23rd letter, which is exhibit 5, and exhibit 7, 5 and 7, they both indicate on the top that they are settlement offers?
Yes.
Any reason to believe you would not have approved a settlement offer provided by your attorney to Anderson County as reflected in each of those letters?
I could. You know, would converse regularly, and I think he misrepresented me.
You would not have misrepresented.
No.
So if he's sending a letter that says settlement offer, you would believe that it reflects accurately a settlement offer that you are willing to accept?
Yes.
In the exhibit number 5, settlement offer,
Yes.
if you look at the last sentence of the first page, it says the total value of the money and benefits due is outlined in the spreadsheet you were previously provided, and that total is $827,222.
That's right.
Do you agree with me that Mr. Hoskins is referencing the total value of money and benefits due under your employment agreement that we previously looked at as exhibit number 4?
I believe at that point in time, yes,
That was his calculation of what was due.
I believe.
And do you recall how he came up with that calculation?
I might have given it to him.
And how did you come up with it?
I had asked my staff person, given a copy of my contract to my finance person, and asked them to take a look to tell me how much it would be worth to me.
Okay. And that staff person was Gina Humphries?
Yes.
She's the same person that ultimately was working on providing the list of information that Mr. Greer was looking for.
I don't know that she might have been the point person, but I believe the finance department would have been the one to pretty much do all that work for her.
Was she in charge of the finance department?
She was.
What was her position in relation to Rita Davis?
Supervisor.
Gina Humphries was the supervisor?
Yes.
And Rita Davis